Hello class and welcome to week 3. Today we will be going through the PowerPoint for chapter 4 and I will go over everything that is due for this week. I'll also point out a couple of other things that you guys should be looking forward to, and let's get started. Alright, so looking at this week, definitely check out some of the current news that I posted. If you get a chance, there's some interesting stuff on there. Then on your own, go over Chapter 7 PowerPoint. They're actually, that PowerPoint is on Mise en Place. Make sure that you guys go through it and definitely view the videos that are in here because they will help you a lot as far as all the content that you need to know for not only the exam, but also for lab on Wednesday. So that is up here. We will go over chapter 4 together in a little while. And over here you have your homework, which is culinary math skills. It's labeled number 1. I will change it to number 2 in a little bit. If you open it up, basically it's a series of questions. So just download it and go ahead. If you guys want to print it out and do it by hand and then just scan it and upload it, that's fine as well. But it's basically doing what we did in class on Wednesday in lab. So just make sure that you follow through and you complete all of it. Also make sure that you show the formula that you use for each problem because that will make it easier for me to grade. You also have a quiz, so that's going to be kind of very similar to what you did last week. Just make sure that you have plenty of time. It is timed, and if your quiz is not finished by the time expires, then the computer automatically just submits whatever you have finished. So try to make sure that you allot yourself that 30 minutes. I've also attached the recipe costing sheet that we did together on Wednesday for the braised red cabbage. These are the answers so that when you are referencing the materials, the packet that we did in class, in lab, then you can just compare your answers just in case you did not take it down. All right, so let's get started on chapter 4. All right, so today we're going to be talking about menus, recipes, and overall cost management, which we have already started talking about in your lab. So these are the vocabulary words that you're going to need to go over. Some of you guys might look at these and be like, I know a lot of them. Just make sure that you go over the definitions because you will definitely see references to these on the exam. All right. So the first things first. So first we're going to talk about the menu and what that means. So in a restaurant or in any food service establishment. So basically the menu dictates everything that you do in the restaurant. It dictates, obviously, what we have to purchase. It dictates the level of cuisine that we are selling. It dictates the level of service that we need. So it truly is the single most important document that you can have. Now, obviously, some people might be like, I know food. This is something that I love to do. Truly, designing a great menu is pretty difficult because you have to keep a lot of things in mind. Clearly, the concept has to be something that everyone looks at. Are you going to be in a hotel? Are you going to be in a suburbia? All that determines what kind of menu you're going to have. Clearly, your customers, your target market, who are you selling to? Who will be walking through your doors every single day? Are they interested in the menu that you're offering? That's something one needs to really pay attention to. What part of the day are you going to be serving? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, extended hours, into the night, whatever it is, only dinner, whatever that may be, you need to make sure that that's obviously a decision maker when you plan the menu. And as mentioned before, your menu dictates what type of staff you have. Are you going to be an assembly type restaurant or, where your employees just have to heat things up and defrost them? Or are you going to be a made from scratch type of restaurant where the staff is actually going to need some cooking experience, potentially even culinary degrees or certificates where you might have to pay them a little bit more? And finally, your equipment. Obviously, this is a big one. So depending on what type of menu you're serving, it also dictates on what type of equipment you will need to have in your restaurant, and that has a lot to do with the design of your restaurant. So truly, every single thing that goes on within a restaurant revolves back towards the menu. All right, so what I've done in these PowerPoints is I've kind of developed these questions that are going to help us guide us through the actual lesson. So the first one, we're going to talk about the different types of menus. So there two types of menus that are very common. So static menu is one that offers the same dishes every day. These are your typical menus that absolutely do not change. Maybe they might have some sort of, let's say, special or catch of the day or whatever that may be. But for the most part, they do not change. So that's something that, they're always the same. And let me go back because I went a little bit forward. All right, sorry about that. So your static menu, so those are your typical, if you say Cheesecake Factory, that menu is the same every single time. A cycle menu is one that changes every single day for a certain period. This is something like if you have a soup schedule and every single Monday you serve red bean soup, which is a traditional New Orleans thing where every single Monday they always serve red bean soup because they soak the beans on Sunday. So every single Monday you have a red bean soup. Maybe Tuesday you have potato soup. Wednesday you have chicken tortilla soup. And then basically, although it's different every day, it flips. It's also very common in any type of cafeterias where there might be a cycle menu. Now it might not just be weekly, it might cycle around monthly. But that's also another example. We can also have a combination of some of these, obviously. So maybe a dessert menu on a cycle, that can also happen. All right, a couple of other ones that are worth mentioning. So an a la carte menu, that is one in which you buy individual parts of the meal separately at its own price. So you would buy your entree, typically a protein, for a specific price, and then you would pick the side items. We say that they are a la carte, but you would buy them and you would pick them, but you would pay for them individually. So let's say your steak is $60 and then you want a loaded baked potato. Well, the loaded baked potato would be from the a la carte menu and that would be an additional $9, let's say. This is very common in steakhouses, higher end steakhouses. Ruth Chris they have a pretty set a la carte menu. Table d'hôte, that's a menu in which a selection of complete meals are offered at set prices. Now these are a little, we've now kind of used these a little bit interchangeably, the table d'hôte and then the two that I will go in, the prefix menu, chef's choice. Those are kind of all, we've kind of put those a little bit together. A lot of times we have now a variation of menus. In a lot of American restaurants, American cuisine, the chefs, they kind of like to pick and choose what they want. It's also very common to have a seasonal menu. So it kind of takes a little bit of characteristics from each different menu to create kind of what we see a lot in very common restaurants. On your right-hand side, this is an example of a traditional prefix menu. Now, this one is from the French Laundry. This is Thomas Keller's restaurant up in Napa Valley. So a prefix menu basically means that you come to the restaurant and you do not get to, a lot of times, choose from the menu. This is what it is. This is sometimes it's called tasting menu, and you pay a set price. Now, some of them are $50, some of them are $30. This one in particular, at the time, this one was $250. Now, I guess it did include service, which is very kind for $250. Now, it is a fabulous restaurant, so that is fine. I believe now they're close to like $350, $365 for the prefix menu. But basically, you go there, you know what the price is. You do not necessarily know what the food will be a lot of times, but you trust the chef and you pay for that experience. So the tasting menu, this is another very similar type of menu. Same with farm to table. That's a lot of chefs that basically they say, this is a set menu, this is the price you pay. Some of them are even now asking you to pay ahead of time, or it's almost like a deposit. When you make the reservation, they ask you to pay for half, and then that ensures them, well, it's two things. Number one, they have a little bit of money to help them offset the cost of purchasing the items. And two, it ensures that you're actually going to show up and not just make a reservation and then they're not going to have you come in. The farm to table menu, that's just another example of what a lot of chefs are doing right now. This is just an example of a kind of a combo. Again, it's a farm to table, but it's actually $150 a person, so it's actually a prefix menu. So it's just an extent of really staying true to the food that chefs are serving. Just another example of the types of menus. All right, second question. So let's talk about menu accuracy, truth in menu. This is a very interesting one. Students are always like, what? Are you serious? This actually happens? So Truth in menu actually means that you are accurate and truthful in the food that you're serving. Now, many of you guys are probably saying, well, shouldn't everybody do this? Yeah, you're right, but they don't. So there are a lot of things that when we say things on the menu, I mean, what do they actually mean? I mean, when somebody says homemade, right? Homemade. I mean, to me, that means everything is made from scratch. But that's not the case for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it just means that it's something that they make in their home. And now they could be using a pre-made tomato sauce. They could already be, using dry pasta. To me, homemade would mean that everything is made from scratch. You're not using already made products and assembling them, but that's not always true. Organic is another one. Now we do have now some more strict guidelines, and we'll talk about this especially with poultry and with vegetables later on. But still, the organic sector is very it's pretty open to a certain thing. So a lot of people can say, all right, I'm organic. I practice, everything organic. I don't use pesticides. I don't use anything. But let's say that they are next to another farm that is not organic and they do use pesticides and they do, use fertilizer. Now, there is air and there's wind, so it could actually transform to the farm that says that they're organic. But there are actually at this point no given standards for that. So that's just, I guess up to the consumer to try to find out. What's really interesting is a friend of mine actually, and this link will take you to the article. He was part of a study that was done in Maryland about the crabs that were being served in Maryland restaurant. A company called Oceana, they actually found out that majority, or not majority, but a large amount of crab cakes that were being served in restaurants in Maryland, and they were labeled as, and they were advertised as Maryland crab cakes. They actually found out that a lot of them did not contain Maryland blue crab, Maryland, crab meat. The most shocking one, I guess, or I guess the two, is Baltimore and Annapolis. So 46% of restaurants that were claiming to have Maryland crab cakes in Baltimore and then 47 in Annapolis actually were not from Maryland. Now, where were they from? They were from China, they were from Mexico, they were from all different places. And how Oceana found this out is they actually did DNA tests of the specific crabs to find out where they came from. So as you could see, not everything is as it seems, and absolutely restaurants are not always truthful. So you can't always trust everything that you see. Okay, in the next video, we will talk about the recipe.